Welcome back, guys. This is day 2 of our trip to Sydney. And you know what that means? We are shooting our treatment series where we go all around Australia and connect with our clients and friends and speak all things allied health and business. Today, we've got the absolute pleasure to visit one of our long-term clients, Mr. Jason Doe. Jason has been a business owner for 3 years now and has scaled his clinic to 3 practitioners in this period of time. He's going to give us a lot of insight and provide a lot of value for practitioners who are independent business owners. And he's going to give us a lot of insight on bringing on that first, second employee and sharing what his goals are to continually scale his clinic over the next 12 months. I know you guys are going to get a lot of value out of this one, so let's dive into it.
Hey. Likewise. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So this is a space.
Yeah.
Very good.
So Jason, we finally made it, man.
Yeah, we're here.
Finally meeting you in the flesh.
Been 12 months.
I know. One of the OGs at Metaflx.
Oh, wow. You're a bit tight through here, hey?
Yeah, bit of tightness.
Is that a bit sore for you or not really?
No, I wouldn't say so. Like, I haven't, outside of Jono's treatment just then,
Yeah.
I haven't really experienced any niggles in my body apart from that groin that he identified straight away.
Okay.
So-
So we're working on your groin today?
Yeah, if you think that's the way to go, then for sure.
Was it left or right?
Left. But you can do like general treatment if you want to treat the groin, then yeah, I'll leave that up to you, man.
Sure.
But again, thanks for having us here today. Super excited for this one, and I know you're going to provide a lot of value from quite a different perspective than what we've had in our initial episodes. But starting off, tell me a little bit about your story, man. Your come up, where you studied, were you working prior to opening up your own clinic? Give us a little bit of an overview on where it all started for you.
So I guess straight out of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And being Asian, everyone wants to do medicine.
Yep.
Didn't get the marks for medicine. So I was like, oh, what the heck do I do now? And then one of my peers who I really looked up to did physio. So I ended up following that track, not really knowing what I wanted to do. But my whole family really respected health. My brother's a radiographer, and so health seemed to be a good place. So I followed, did physio. Didn't really know what the heck I was doing at uni. Honestly, it was only until the final year where I started to really find a passion in physio. Doing placements at hospitals, private practices, working with children, all sorts of people. I realized the impact that physio can have, and I guess my special skills as well. I was a really good listener. I asked certain questions that maybe the practitioner didn't have time, that who was supervising me didn't really have time to go into, and it was just great to know more people and see the big differences that we can make as physios. So from there, I finished physio. How's this feel, by the way?
Really good.
Yeah?
It's good, yeah.
Okay. A bit sore or?
Like I only felt the pain when I did when I was deep into the squat.
Yeah.
So like just being normal and resting, I'm not really feeling anything.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I might push and prod into some tendons and sites of origins. So yeah, I'll ask. So yeah, I ended up finishing uni, and that was around COVID time, man. It was pretty hard to find a job because a lot of clinics were closing down because there was not enough work, and I think the government was saying that physio was a non-essential service, and then that went back on its head. A lot of people went to part-time, but I was lucky to find something close to where I lived in Revesby, private practice. It was okay, but it just felt really transactional, and the manager, the owner, was more interested in money and making sure that I was busy. Because the appointment times were only 30 minutes, I didn't really get that much time to practice physio in the way that I wanted, to really get to know the clients and to create a huge treatment effect like I saw in placement. So that's when I started doing my own thing. I became a contractor, did mobile health, worked for a place called Movement 101. They're pretty big, but they're so big that they sort of forgot about me. They just gave me the clients, and I was traveling between Rose Bay all the way to like Parramatta, and that's a good 1 hour drive in peak hour traffic. I was traveling at least 3 hours in a day.
Really?
Yeah. I loved it because I had autonomy, but far out, my neck and back.
Yeah.
Hurt
You
like
did the
hell.
treatments yourself.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I have chronic neck pain because of that.
Wow.
That 1 to 2 years I was working as a mobile physio.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what made you want to actually start your own clinic?
I was pretty sick of driving, not gonna lie. Right? So that was a big motivator for me. I didn't want to have surgery on my neck because I was driving, doing mobile health for my whole life. Honestly, in mobile health, while you can go into someone's place that they live and really see what they like and make changes in their home. It's nothing compared to the equipment that a full-fledged clinic like this one and in the gym that you did some exercise therapy with Jono would be.
Yeah.
So that was my vision. How do I start getting people to come to me? So I didn't want to drive, and I felt like I could do more for people within a place with equipment. And so when I had enough numbers to justify and finances, so I started to rent a place here in Belmore. It was like a small room, and it just went from there. And from word of mouth, as well as doing networking, that's really how I became quite busy.
So on that point, man, like taking a couple of steps back, obviously going from being in that sort of mobile field, working for somebody, then transitioning to running your own clinic. You just mentioned that, you know, once you got your numbers right and you figured that out, then you were able to progress. What did those numbers look like for you?
It was basically because mobile health, there were a lot of people under NDIS and home care packages, so those were quite consistent levels of work. If I could pay myself enough to live on, I was still living with my mom at the time, but enough to like cover all my spending in a year and enough to cover rent, especially if I didn't get any clients for like the first month or two, then that seemed pretty safe for me to move forward and start my own thing. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, so no, that's really, really good. So if you could explain it like very simply for a person that is only just starting to think about these movements and taking that next step for themselves, how would you summarize that? Like what would be the 1 or 2 or 3 checkpoints that you'd want to have ticked off to be like, yes, this makes sense for me to open up my own clinic?
Honestly, if I was like for real with you, like I just, you've got to really believe in yourself, right? That's the number one thing, right?
Yep.
And if you've seen enough clients and they really love what you're doing and they say to you, hey, where is your office? And obviously you don't have an office because you're working for someone else. That gave me a lot of encouragement to think that a lot of people would actually pay full price for my services. And I didn't need someone else to try to find clients for me or anything like that. So I think that's number one. Number two, I would probably say have 3 to 6 months of savings.
Yeah.
Like just think about what it might cost to rent a place, have the equipment, and actually have the capital to buy a bed. Honestly, being in physiotherapy and private practice, you don't need all that much. It's like 10K, you can start a clinic.
Yeah.
Right? So that's number two. Look at your numbers and 3 to 6 months of money prepared, just in case nothing rolls through.
And then a ballpark figure is $10,000 just to set up.
Pretty much, man. Hey, by the way, was this sore?
When you press hard, it's a bit sore, yeah.
That one? Yeah?
Yeah.
And then how about this one?
Not as sore.
Yeah, okay. So this is your hamstring, bro.
Okay.
This is where your hamstring goes into your pelvis.
Yeah.
And it's pretty personal up here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You're
we can
moving.
tell, right?
Yeah. You're moving towards the more personal part for sure. When I was younger, I actually had this. I think it was an osteo, but yeah, he'd push in there really hard, and I was a little bit traumatized by it, being young.
Oh, okay. Okay. Am I bringing up trauma?
No. I'm all good. I'm all good. But yeah, so you're saying number one was being confident with your practice.
Yeah.
Like have a lot of self-confidence. Number two was more of like a financial overview. So 10K, 3 to 6 months worth of operational expenses in savings ahead of time in case, in the worst case scenario, you had no patients, you could operate for 3 to 6 months without crumbling.
Honestly, if it was up to me, then I think those two were all you really needed, to be fair.
Yeah.
If I were to choose a number three, just having some piece of network that would make it a little bit easier for you to get busy at the start. So that might be a relationship with a GP or some sort of gym where you already know some people are willing to come see you from the get-go. So you're not twiddling your thumbs too early into starting your own business.
Yeah, and working with you for, pretty sure we're approaching very close to a year now. I know that networking has been a big part of your success. Like you seem to be friends with every business owner within a 500 meter radius from you. So like what advice would you give to clinicians that whose strength probably isn't networking? How can they become better networkers to build a better referral system?
I think for most people, they're not good at networking because number one, they don't realize the benefits of it. I think really just going out there and just seeing it for yourself is something that's really important. If that's a barrier for you, being a bit shy, introverted, then you can easily just send a text, email, fax, whatever it is. Maybe you get someone to buy it, but once someone does buy it, it gives you the confidence to say, hey, actually, people don't hate you. You don't think that you're a waste of time to other people, because that's what a lot of physios suffer with, healthcare practitioners, a little bit of imposter syndrome. home. And honestly, I've felt that, and I still feel that, to be honest, because we're doing so many leaps and bounds with our business and ourselves as practitioners that it often feels like we're growing too quickly, and we're growing into a space where not many other people are, and it just feels like if we don't stay with the norm of what everyone else is doing, then we're doing something wrong. And we're always questioning ourselves because we're always questioning if what we're doing is the right thing for the client. That can come off as inconfidence, and it can actually affect our ability to practice as well as to network. Yeah, I think just in summary, I really would recommend people to just reach out, call. More than likely than not, people are willing to network and build relationships. Try to make it not transactional. When you come into a networking event, you're thinking of how can I learn as much from this person and how can I give as much value as I can to this person. And it's always worked out for me in that sense.
So could you give us like a tangible example on how you'd perhaps treat a partnership with a gym or a local business that comes to mind?
I think for me, since I specialize in men's health, with men's health, there's a lot of pelvic floor urological issues that come with what I treat. It made a lot of sense for me to reach out to urologists. So an easy search online, there was a urologist in the suburb across from me. His name's Dr. Patel. And essentially it took me probably 3 times calling and honestly suckering up to the practice manager, asking, hey, what's your coffee order? I still remember it's a long black. Yep. And then there's the secondary of practice manager who likes a mocha. So I basically would say, hey, is it okay if I come by, get you coffee, pass on some flyers? Because in my head, I was like, oh, if someone came by with flyers and I wasn't really interested, I just throw them away. So I want to make them feel bad for throwing it away. So I'm going to give them coffee. Yeah. It was legitimately me at the start. Yeah, I did that, and then probably a good 2 or 3 weeks later, I called up again and said, because the urologist wasn't there, they're only there 2 days a week. The rest of the week, they're actually doing surgeries. And then, 1 or 2 weeks later, I called up again, asked if I could actually meet up with Dr. Patel. And from there, I met him in person. I asked him if I could see his surgery, see one of his robotic surgeries of the prostate. He invited me to like the Hurstville Private Hospital, and bro, it's freaking amazing what they do. They're saving lives. And then he's become a pretty good referral network since then for any men's health clients. And he's never had any physio approach him ever. And he's never had any other student, besides urological students, look at how he does surgery. So yeah, it's something that not everyone does. And
isn't it amazing the outcomes that you can get out of life by simply asking a question? Because my background was sales, right? Yeah. My sales manager always taught me, she said to me, Mum always said, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And that just stuck with me forever. And everyone that I taught sales to, I said the same thing. Like, you'll be surprised if you just ask people a question, what outcome you can get out of that, you know? And back to your point, like you just asked him, can I watch one of your surgeries? Most people would just have that doubt in their mind and be like, oh, there's no way he's going to say yes to that. Like, who am I? But then Jason comes along, the hustler, he's like, I want to get an outcome here. I can actually be beneficial to you, and I'm going to ask this question. My intention's good. Ask that question and then look at the fruits that have come from that. You know, so that's just a testament to what I've observed from you, Jason. Like, you're a hustler, you're not scared to ask questions, take on new opportunities, invest in new things and learn. And I think that's a big takeaway that the audience can definitely take out of this, in no matter what industry you work for. I work with a lot of clients that are too scared to send a DM, you know, like sending a DM. It's just all part of the game of running a business. You have to get yourself out there. You need to ask questions. You're not being annoying. You're doing somebody a service. And on this topic, like, my advice to that is, if you're being genuine and if your intention is right and you're not trying to rip somebody off or take advantage of somebody, there's no reason why you don't reach out to them. In fact, you're doing them a disservice if you know you can get them a result and you're not engaging with them, you know? So
I'm into that. Yeah, that's how I feel most of the time, and I don't feel like that when I'm low energy, but that's what I tell myself to pick back up. It's about helping others, serving. And if you're scared to DM, scared to ask for what you think that person needs or ask for what you want, you're doing not just yourself a disservice, but them. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, moving forward, what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced so far as a physio?
As a physio, honestly, it's sales. Trying to figure out how I can not feel like I'm ripping someone off. whenever I'm finishing a session by asking them to pay, or feeling like the reason that they didn't book in with me was because the price was too expensive. I think we can be really fixated on that as physios, and I definitely have felt that, and in some senses, yeah, I'm still feeling that. But with more and more working with really successful people, like yourself, right? And just further education in terms of business skills and sales skills, I'm realizing it's not about the price. It's really about how well you're able to connect with the person, really show them that whatever you're proposing is the solution for them. And it's really to do with connection and those soft skills. I would say that's the biggest thing for me as a private physio, and honestly, a lot of private physios out there, to be frank.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, you're spot on. Like I see that across the board as well. How do you actually fill that gap? What have you done to fill that gap? So that was your challenge, was the sales side, because you felt like would you say you felt like an imposter?
Yeah.
Well, you said you felt like you were ripping them off.
Yeah, I felt bad,
Like
man.
it's the insecurity of feeling bad.
Yeah.
First of all, where do you think that comes from? Like, do you think it's just like a normal human sort of feeling to feel that way, or?
I think if I were to really dig deep, it's probably due to my culture and the way I was brought up. My parents were refugees from the Vietnam War.
Yep.
And they came here with nothing because they had nothing. They came on boats from Vietnam all the way to Malaysia and hoping, crossing their fingers, they could get into Australia.
Wow.
With the risk of pirates boarding their ship, doing all sorts of illegal things and stealing all their stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. For them, they really looked after every cent when I was growing up. And I always felt like I was poor. Like my family was poor when I was growing up. That wasn't actually the case. They actually did quite well for themselves. They worked really hard, being the eldest in both of their families. Hard enough to actually bring their extended family all the way to Sydney. Yeah. And enough to have a good house and money for tutoring, money for my education. But yeah, they always made me eat every single scrap for my dinner and lunch.
Yep.
Because how about the kids in Africa? That's
Yeah.
what that's what my mom would always say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in that sense, I didn't have a really good relationship with money, to be frank. And I think one part of your question was, how did I address that?
Yeah, like how do you overcome that? So I'm sure a lot of people can relate, you know, it might not be specifically in relation to your exact background, but I think a lot of us grow up with not having the best relationship with money, and that's where a lot of this can stem from, you know? So yeah, personally with you, how have you been able to sort of train your mind and overcome that?
Honestly, atheist answer is it was part of my networking, man. Like once I started to really understand and know more successful business people, I could see that they didn't have any issues with high prices, and they were living life, and they were happy, and people spoke very highly of them while charging prices that I'd initially be like, whoa, how does anyone buy from that? How does anyone purchase that? So talking to more people, expanding my world vision was a huge part. But the Christian answer, which I think sticks better with me, is God provides everything to us, and knowing that that's the case, I had a more abundant view of life. And I guess the things that I valued, I did value money. With that in the frame of mind, and money doesn't really have that much value, does it? It's just as long as we're saved and go to heaven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I resonate with both those points, and I'm sure the audience will as well, man. So no, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's definitely something that all of us can get better at, for sure. But extending on that point, you brought up, you know, the atheist perspective, but you also brought up the Christian perspective.
Yeah.
And that actually leads into my next question, which is, what role does your clinic's branding play in attracting new clients and scaling your clinic? But yeah, you've established quite a strong brand. The way that I perceive your brand is, your branding is very, very clear. I would argue the most clear out of all the clinics that I work with. Let's start off with you just telling us a little bit more about your brand and where Narrow Gate actually comes from.
Narrow Gate comes from a passage in the Bible. It was actually talking about Jesus. It was the book of Mark. He quotes Jesus and says, the path to life and the fruits of life are through the narrow gate, and destruction is through the wider gates. So the wider gates in Christian mythology is sin. So things that are easy for us to do that aren't in the best interest for everyone else and the best interest of God. Easily seen as, you know, if you should be working out, looking after your body that God has given you, but you're eating chips, watching TV, right?
Yeah.
That's probably not what you should be doing. In the physical aspect of things, in the physio realm, doing your exercises, which is actually pretty difficult for most people when you first meet them, because you're getting them to change their life, putting in like a 15-30 minute routine in their life that's already so busy, that's supposed to fix them. But a lot of times, if they don't have that drive or motivation, the thing that they should be doing, they don't do, and they end up worse for it. and their condition gets worse. So essentially asking people to make the right choice for their health, for themselves, I think that's really what Narrow Gate Physiotherapy is about.
Yeah, that's unreal. And, working with you for the time that we have, that brand has definitely, strengthened through all the channels that you've engaged with to build your online presence. And part of the reason why I wanted you to sort of explain your branding is just to give the audience an idea on, you're passionate about your brand. You've built your brand based on your perspectives on life, and that comes through your work and the way that you treat people. And branding is so much more than just colors and a logo and a font. Like even at Metaflx, a lot that has to do with our brand is the way that we make our clients feel, like internally when we employ people, when we train people, it all stems from the brand itself. How we're making our clients feel, what does the customer experience feel like? Our objective firstly is to get them a result, etc., etc. And that ties back into what you're saying as well. So being really strong and knowing exactly what your brand is really, really important, because that sort of sets the solid foundation for everything that you build upwards and onwards from that initial foundation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's important that you have the brand that attracts the company or the people that you want to be part of. That needs to be the foundation, because otherwise you're going to attract all sorts of different people, and they may not be your ideal client. Yeah. And when that's the case, I'm not really loving what I'm doing. I'm treating someone who has he's not on the same page as me. I'm working with other people who aren't on the same page as me.
And the cool thing about that from a, scaling standpoint is if you're working with your dream client or your dream target audience, and they're resonating with you and you guys are able to connect and they do what you say, what you recommend for them to do. So in your case, I know for practitioners, a big challenge that you guys have to overcome is actually getting your patients to do the workouts or the maintenance stuff at home in between treatments for you to be able to get a result, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with us, like there is an element of clients, for example, needing to record content or to do their DM outreach or fulfill the sales calls when leads come through. And if the client isn't aligned and they're not fulfilling their end of the bargain, then the results aren't going to be as good as what we've achieved with people that are super aligned with us and are willing to put in the work. You know what I mean?
So I know exactly what you mean, bro.
I agree with you completely on that point, Jace.
I guess, can I ask a question about your brand?
For sure.
Where's your brand coming from? And what sort of people are you trying to work with your brand?
Good question. I actually started my career in sales, and there was a guy it was an industry leader in the face-to-face sales organization that I worked with. He was actually the head of the organization. And at the time, I was the only European salesperson in the company, funnily enough. Yeah. And he was Italian and his family was from Sicily as well, which is where my family was from. And I looked up to him. People used to think like I was like his prodigy or like his son because we looked kind of similar as well. Okay. And we had the same fashion sense and we used to rock up to events wearing the same sort of suits and stuff like that. Anyway, I looked up to him and his company was actually named very similarly to Metaflx. I'm not going to disclose the name of the company. And so the name Metaflx itself actually was inspired by his company name. But Meta pretty much means the way of doing something, and then flex is like flexible solution. So we know the way to do things, we're innovating the way of doing things, but we don't have like a cookie cutter approach to the clients that we work with. We're business owners, we're business builders, that's what we love to do. And we have flexible approaches to dealing with lots of different clients at different stages. So for example, we work with clinicians, if we're talking allied health specifically, we work with clinicians that are, just newly starting the clinic and are looking to get the first few patients through the door. And then we work with clinics that have already employed their first 2-3 patients and are wanting to scale beyond that, so we work with people at all different stages of their journey. And then in terms of how we want our clients to feel, I think I know how I want them to feel, but I think the best thing that I can do is turn back to all the feedback that we've gotten. And a lot of the feedback that we've received from our clients is, I'd say a strong point is our communication. Working in a creative space, it's really important to understand that we all see things very differently. And I like to use this as my analogy, right? So Jason, I want you to picture a purple flower, okay?
Purple flower.
Now, you've got a screenshot in your mind or like a vision in your mind of a purple flower, okay? You share with me how you saw that purple flower.
Looks like a daisy. But
okay.
So in the middle it's yellow, and then the petals are purple, dark purple.
Okay, and then what is there? Grass? Does it have is it in an environment, or are you just seeing?
It's all in black. The surroundings all black.
Okay, everything's black. It's just a flower floating in.
Yeah, in midair and in a milky black sort of substance.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's really bright, the flower that I'm seeing right now.
Perfect. Well, the flower that I actually envisioned, it's a flower. Yes, my one was yellow in the middle as well, but it's like the petals are like a normal flower that you try to draw on a piece of paper. Right, so it's like circular, and then it's got a stem. It's actually got 3 leaves on the stem. There's grass, so it's sitting on grass. I, for some reason, envisionated like a pixelated sky with pixelated clouds.
Interesting.
Right? And that was my envision of a purple flower. So my point to that is, working in a creative field, there is a lot of room for communication gaps and communication flaws. And we're very much aware of that. Right? So when you're operating a business, working with multiple clients, it's not just me, we've got a team of professionals. Having really strong communication systems, communication values around communication is really, really important. So that way, when we do jump on a call, or you, Jason, say, hey, I've got this vision of a purple flower. I've got systems in place and methods in place to make sure that we are 100% aligned on seeing the same flower to help you achieve the exact goal that you want to achieve. Yeah, does that analogy make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, man. You're recognizing that communication is a huge part of what makes business successful, like working for anybody successful. Because if you're not on the same page, then you're not going to be able to create the result that the client wants.
Absolutely.
Nor to the degree that you know that you can produce. So yeah, and I've actually seen that, man, through my work with you. You communicate. Sorry, bro.
My arms aren't really suctiony.
It's okay, I'll use the small
They're
ones.
not big enough. I got to lift harder at the gym.
I know, right? Come on, man. Yeah, like I've seen that through the way that we've been working together. Your communication is top notch, man. At no point have I been put on red for more than like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And if it's not you, then it's somebody else that you have trusted to look after me. And I'm really not let down at all, ever. So I really appreciate your work with me. It's been reliable, and I know that you always do the right thing. You have demonstrated that. So that's why I trust you guys so much to continue working with you guys, and you guys are producing really great results with us.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, man. Honestly, that makes me happier above all, because that's truly where my heart is, and that's my number one objective every single day. And that's all, like, that's the part that we stress with the team every single day. Like, we've actually got a rule that we try to stick to, and that's to respond to clients within 10 minutes of a message coming through. Do we nail it every time? No, but that's the standard that we're striving for. Because we know communication is such an important thing. Because if you think about it, like, you guys are giving us control or authority over your social media platforms. Like, that is your online store. We're managing your guys' ad budget. Your marketing budgets to run marketing campaigns. So that communication needs to be top notch, but I appreciate that, man. So what marketing channels have you found to be the most effective in attracting new patients?
Honestly, the most effective has been the most recent, I have to say, my friend, and it's through the paid ads that you guys are managing us with, through Instagram and Facebook. Just literally, as soon as you made the system go, you could see the immediate effects. No doubt, I think we were talking about this a little bit before too. I really do believe that we built such a great brand before we actually put on the paid ads that it's created so much trust that so many people are willing to do that free consultation and take a call from us and don't think it's just some sort of scam, right? Or a waste of time. Yeah, I think honestly, if I were to choose one, it's resoundingly the paid ads that you guys have managed for us. And like, I would emphasize manage for us compared to how I would do it on my own. It wasn't as successful. It was still successful. I would get a few bookings, but not to the extent that you guys have put through.
Well, the cool thing is, working with us is that it's essentially a cheat code. We take out all the guesswork. You don't need to figure it out. We've got data across multiple clinics and multiple different ad creatives and ad campaigns, so we know what works and what doesn't work. So literally day dot of implementing the ads, we're able to get those, conversions very, very quickly. But as an extension to what you were saying about your branding and all the prior legwork that we had already done leading up to the paid ads, I would say out of all the clinics that have launched success in first month of running paid ads, yours is definitely up there in performance. And I think a lot of that is because, and this is a big selling point that I share with a lot of clinics and a lot of businesses in general, and that is your organic content does play a role. Does it lead to direct conversions as effectively as paid ads does? No. And why is that?
The reason is because when you're putting out organic content, it's an opportunity for you to share your branding, educate your audience. Organic content works to more nurture your audience, right? So when people find you through your organic content or they search you on Google, usually what the customer journey looks like is going to the website, scrolling through the website. Yeah, this website looks pretty cool. I want to click on the socials and see who the head of the business is. What does this business feel like? Do I resonate with this business? And they go to your page, your Instagram or Facebook page, right? They binge your content a little bit and they're judging you based on how competent they think you are through your content.
Yeah.
So if your content strategy is aligned to your target audience, so in your case, you're dealing with people that are in pain, right?
Yeah.
So if these people can come to your page and within the first minute of seeing your social media page, they're able to see who you are, what you do, where you're based, and then through watching a few pieces of your content, they can see what your treatment looks like. They can see you actually explain some specific educational topics. Quite quickly, they're going to be like, you know what, this guy or girl knows what they're talking about. I'm going to give them a crack. And you're going to see an increased chance of that person converting. Now, that's the role of organic content. Now, you will have the odd person that does book through that, right? But now where the paid ads comes in is if you've built that really strong foundation, you've got a really sexy website, you've got a really good social media presence. When you start running paid ads, they've already previously looked at your social media presence. You're constantly at the top of their feed. Your ad's constantly coming up, right? The objective of that paid ad is for them to click on that call to action on that advertisement they see and actually book in an appointment with you. The direct objective of that paid ad campaign that you are paying for through paid ads is for them to book an appointment. So organic content is more nurturing focused, and then paid ad strategy is more about conversion based results. And you know, a lot of people do get that confused, and it's just really, really important to know the difference between the two.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and really that's the result that we're seeing with you guys managing our paid ads. Conversion is the purpose of paid ads, and nurturing is the purpose of organic stuff.
Yeah. And right now, I like to call it, we got all pistons firing. So that's why you're getting a really, really steady lead flow coming through. And your book's just going to continually get consistently full. And then that obviously unlocks the opportunity of continually scaling your clinic. But moving forward onto that point, so you've been running paid ads, you've got an abundance of leads coming through. What's working for you in actually being able to convert these leads into appointments?
Yeah, I think what works really well is going through the script that you've given me, because otherwise I can go off track and a 15-minute free consultation over the phone goes into like 30 or 40. And there might be a good chance that person doesn't end up buying from us anyway. So making it very clear what the purpose of the call is, building trust, and following that up with here's the next step, rather than going into limbo a little bit with maybe not a script that you didn't, if I didn't follow your script. Yeah, that's been really successful in terms of getting people to book in like right away over the phone.
And then like I see a lot of clinicians struggling with the sales process itself. So I got a couple of questions on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number one, what's your mindset towards selling as an allied health professional?
I think to be super raw, honestly having the mindset of I want to get this fucking person better. And because I give a shit so much, then this person needs to come and see me. And it's a little bit of self-confidence, but also when you have seen enough patients and you've seen them get great results, you know that I'm the best person for them to see. They've reached out to me for a reason. There's so many millions of people in the world. Why have they reached out today to engage with me? And I need to do the best thing in my ability to help them. And it's a disservice to them if I don't ask them to come in for an appointment, because that's going to be the next step forward to curing their issue.
And then in terms of converting that lead into a booked appointment, how do you position yourself to get that result?
Yeah, man. I think the way that we position ourselves to be the people to get the result that they need is honestly asking the right questions and really connecting with the person over the phone, first and foremost. Once we get that in order, we can start to help them understand a version of themselves in the future where they're not having to deal with the stress and the lack of energy from their injury, and only really understanding how they're feeling here and now and showing them that they can not feel those things and actually feel more joy. Honestly, I think that's the point of difference between us and any other physio or chiro or osteo, because we really care about the person in front of us and they know that. And because they know that, they probably trust us to give them the best treatment possible so that they can get to where they need to go as quick as possible.
So that then you're effectively communicating that over the phone. Sales 101, like I said, my background is sales. So we call it the impulse curve, right? So the impulse curve means you need to get the person that you're speaking to the highest point on the impulse curve before you actually share the price with them. So what does that look like as a practitioner? This is what it looks like. Hey Matt, you filled out our inquiry form or our free assessment form and you stated that you've got lower back pain. Can you tell me a little bit more about that lower back pain? Okay, blah, 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 blah. He gives you his life story about his back pain and then you're obviously responding in a very confident way. You might ask a couple of qualifying questions to narrow down on what that particular injury is. And then you'll conclude and be like, okay, Matt, it sounds like you've got a case of this is your case, whatever the injury is, and then you would confidently explain how you would go about treating that issue, and this is what the outcome will be. So currently, he's got lower back pain, he can't play with his kids, he can't go on walks, daily walks with his wife, or working out with his wife, and his standard of living is significantly down. So your goal is to tell Matt, hey Matt, I'm going to fix you, you're going to be able to achieve all these things. That impulse curve is now at its highest point. Matt's like, yeah, I'm going to be able to pay it, I'm going to be able to do things again.
Yeah.
And that's when you position yourself and set yourself up to actually share the price. And then your chance of converting that person and getting that next yes is going to be much greater. That's sort of a gap that I see with a lot of clinicians. There's quite a bit of gap in the whole sales process.
Yeah.
And having the authority to be like, I can get you out of pain. They know they can get them out of pain, but they can't really communicate that. And that's the way that I've seen my clients actually be able to get that result.
Put it better than I could have, man. No wonder you're in sales. Far out.
Well, that's pretty much what we were discussing prior to this conversation anyway. I know it can be a little bit daunting in front of camera, but...
and doing massage as well.
And doing massage as well, yeah. But no, that's cool. So, Jace, obviously you run a successful clinic. You've had the experience to bring on another 2 practitioners as well. I want to dive deep a little bit into the employee route versus the contractor route when scaling a clinic.
Honestly, for myself, both of my employees have been under salary, and that's just under the principle of if I were to work for somebody, trying to put myself in their shoes, would I rather have consistent income or would I rather like only getting paid if I treated and created billables? And obviously, consistent income makes more sense. And I wanted anyone who worked with us to be in it for the long haul and not have to worry about finances. And when people get worried about finances, they start to do some not ethical stuff, and rather thinking about client care and creating the best result and creating the best thing for the brand, they may deviate from that. And I never wanted to have that conversation, especially early on. So because of that, honestly, even with Andy finishing up last week, we had a really good experience with Andy. Every single client that Andy saw, they loved him. And that's the same thing with Jonathan at the moment as well. That has been one of the main aims of this company, for people to feel like they really felt taken care of, everyone who comes through the door. So in terms of that, I would stick with salary. In terms of scaling, because you're paying people a salary, it's a bit more difficult to hire more people. I've had so many clients asking for a female physio.
Okay.
I just literally cannot do that because I'm already stuck paying people salaries. But it would be a different story if I had some contractors and I had a little bit more freedom to just hire anybody and have no overheads, have no risk.
Well, it's clear to see already a couple of pros and cons to both employee and contractor. With the employee route, you do have that confidence that that person isn't thinking about money, they've agreed to this, they're here, they're happy with their working environment, they don't need to hustle to try and earn a living. Do you know what I mean? What I mean by hustle is if it's not working out as much as they'd like to, you're removing the whole chance of them needing to hustle and do things that aren't quite aligned to the company to get themselves over the line. Do you know what I mean? But then a negative is that you got less flexibility. You're pretty much locked in as a business owner in employing that person. Whereas the contractor side, you've got a lot more flexibility. You're not tied down to that salary, etc. But in terms of, okay, so say I'm an independent clinician and I'm inspired by your perspective and I actually want to go down the employee route. The first thing that comes to mind is shit, I need to have stable revenue to be able to bring on this additional resource, to bring on this new employee. What does stability look like to bring on that first person. So where would you recommend the business is before you bring on that next person?
So I have an ongoing mentor who has let me know what the idea is. I didn't follow it. The idea is if you're 80% booked and you're able to stay that for 4 weeks, it means that you're consistently 80% booked, meaning it's time for you to offload some of that to a new practitioner.
Okay.
Obviously, you need to be able to pay yourself first, and having enough to pay for yourself as well as a little bit more is going to be the key to start thinking about a new practitioner. And I would probably say if you're seeing 30 to 40 clients consistently for at least a month and generating 3 to 4K a week, that you're definitely in the running to need another practitioner if you want to expand.
Sure. Okay, so there's some nice tangible numbers for people to work towards.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Awesome. That answers the question.
I guess I had another. Remember how I said I didn't follow that?
Yeah. Add to that. Share your experiences, man, 'cause that's what we want. Like, we want to learn from your mistakes as well.
Yeah. While that's the right rule to go by, I didn't end up following it just because when Andy and Jonathan messaged me, gave me their resume, I just knew that they were the right fit for the company. I just made it happen. So even though I wasn't that 80% booked, I bet on myself and bet on them that they would at least generate enough revenue for their own wage. They did. Yeah. Because I saw it in their heart that they loved treating people in the right way, and that was really what the company was about. Trusting the gut was helpful in that sense. I could easily understand how other people trusting the gut, it might be disastrous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried to take caution where I could and had to work a little bit longer hours if I needed to, but I just made it work.
Yeah, you saw the opportunity, you took it, you take a bit of risk. And that's another thing. That's another thing, like people are scared to take risks in life. Obviously you would have worked out your numbers, you would have assessed that risk and then, taken that next step. You're obviously comfortable with that risk, you took that step and you've seen the fruits of that decision. So that's cool, man. That's a nice little thought process that I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from having. Moving to, I've got a couple more questions and they're more marketing related. What's the most underrated marketing strategy that clinicians miss or don't take advantage of?
Social media, bro.
Social media.
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
It all comes to that. The amount of people that you can reach with social media is incredible. And it's not just like random people. You can actually target who sees your content. If you're let's say for example, women's health physio, you can pretty easily, correct me if I'm wrong, but adjust the paid ad target group so that it targets women who are a certain age, likely pregnant, who follow certain groups where they experience incontinence or pain, etc.
For sure.
That physio can fix. It just makes it so that you're not wasting time and money like approaching the wrong people with like traditional networking and like just trying to get it right with organic. So yeah, I would definitely say paid ads. I think a lot of people don't do it because you have to put your money where your mouth is and really invest in getting results. Yeah,
for sure. I understand that being a business owner, like you got to put money. Sometimes we don't like to put money, or we want to get the result before we put the money there because that's the best way to mitigate as much risk as possible. But yeah, like paid ads, extremely good solution. Again, it is definitely an investment that you need to put forward to make it all happen. But then, in your case, you're not an egotistical person, like you're like, you know what? I'm going to hand this to Metaflx, do my ads for you. I know that you know what you're doing. And then on the first day of launching, we literally had our first leads coming through. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's required. What's the ladder though? What's the other option that people have?
As in physios who are trying to market?
Yeah, like if they didn't want to go down the agency route, like what are the other options they would have? Like you being a practitioner, I'm sure you've sort of weighed up your options as well. What other options have you explored?
Just purely in terms of social media? Or
Yeah,
look, if you're on your own and you're not delegating anyone to do this, you literally just have to do all the social media stuff yourself. Spending heaps of time with a tripod, trying to film, and the angle's not right. No one's really taught you about lighting. You edit it yourself, fire out. Oh man, I've been there, done that. That's why I got you, bro. Yeah, it just takes up so much of your time, but it can be done. People will walk to you up, like clients will say, oh, great job with the reel, or people might notice you and say, great job with the reel, but they're not actually buying from you, like extra, because of that. And I think any physio looking to do any sort of effective marketing needs to connect with anybody who is referred to them. So whether that's a personal trainer, whether that's a GP, whether that's etc., you need to get the number of that person, ring them up and tell them what was the outcome of the client that was referred to you. And that just builds trust and makes it so that that person is more likely to refer in the future. And that's a referral network there, right there.
Nah, awesome. To wrap it up, man, I'd love to know, like, what are your goals over the next 6 to 12 months moving into 2025?
Yeah, moving into 2025, we've experienced so much growth in Narrow Gate Physiotherapy. It's kind of insane what we've managed to do in 12 months. I want to take it easy, bro. There's been so many leaps and bounds. I just want to take steady growth if possible. This is the first year of my marriage. I think being in married life, I need to slow down for my own work-life balance. I can't just do willy-nilly stuff and stay late at work anymore as a single person. And so in the next 12 months, we're probably going to hire a receptionist and we probably will hire one full-time physio in the next 12 months. And that's it. Full-time is a bit of a stretch, maybe part-time.
And then, so it would be you working part-time, full-time?
Yeah, man. So I'm already working part-time because of Jonathan and Andy. I will probably increase some of those hours now that Andy's moving on. But the time that I spend outside of clinical stuff, it'll probably be less stressful because we're doing something that we know works and just building off it. I'm going to try not to build a new project.
So cool. So we're looking at 3 clinicians total, including yourself, receptionist. So really consolidating the business, having everybody operating at least a 70-80% capacity and cruising from there.
Yeah, man. Just make sure everyone's happy.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure working with you for the past 12 months, and we're definitely going to make that goal that you've got in mind a reality over the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months at a maximum. So looking forward to it.
I'm confident with your help we'll get there.
For sure. Well, no, thanks so much for your time, Jace. We're good, man.
You're welcome.
It was a good chat. All right, guys, we are at the end of the episode. If you made it this far, I'm sure you got an immense amount of value out of this episode and related to the content. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us directly on our social media platforms. And if you would like to discover how Metaflx can help your business, click the link in the description of the video and select the date that fits your schedule best. Feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.